Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, what failed this session? Also, Trump's fight with the Pope comes to Alabama. And curiously, voters are still undecided.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you? Who are you?
Who are you?
Maybe they don't like you, or maybe they don't know you. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter at APR and also top columnist. Welcome.
Nice. No, I've been elevated. I got a promotion. Does that come with a pay raise?
It doesn't come with a raise, no.
Well, my check hadn't cleared.
He's already said yes. Too late. No take backs.
There
He
you
doesn't
go.
write-
Well, there you go.
He doesn't know where the checkbook is.
I don't have any idea.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we talked about the do nothing session. I think we're all pretty agreed on that. Very, very, very few things really happened. But I think some of the things that didn't happen are the better stories. And the number one thing, and we watched this, the Alabama Republican Party wants to close their primary, while candidates, for the most part, do not want closed primaries. As I think Chris Pringle said, or one of them said, it wasn't Chris Pringle, but someone said, what do you want us to commit suicide? And, because it's just a bad idea. But like so many things, it passed the House because the ALGOP, the hardliners over there, they want closed primaries. But it got to the Senate, and, the sponsor of the bill said, I don't see any big appetite for this bill. And guess what? It died.
Yeah, it did.
Like it should have.
Well, and sometimes those bills like that are designed to die at the last minute. They set it up that way so that they can kind of give everybody what they want. They really don't want the bill to pass, but they've got to appease the ALGOT people, so they kind of set it up to fail. That's not unusual.
But Josh, the whole notion that in a state like Alabama, you would close the primary, and I've heard it from independents, I've heard it from Republicans, I've heard it from Democrats. It's like, you're already limiting our choices. Are you just going to limit it to the most fringe parts of the party? I mean, that's the scary bit right there. You couldn't get a reasonable person elected if you paid every voter in here in the county $100,000, pretty much.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, if you say all the parts of this out loud, it's really one of the more ludicrous ideas. Okay, so taxpayers are going to pay the bill for conducting this primary, right?
Right.
We're going to do this. To be able to participate in the primary, you have to declare your allegiance to a party that you may not want to be a part of. You may not want to be a part of that party. But to do this, to participate in this thing that you're paying for, you're going to have to do this. And at the end of which, if you don't participate in it, they're going to send somebody to Montgomery to represent, or wherever, whatever office you're going to. They're going to send somebody to these offices, these public offices, to represent you in this district that you live in, even though you've had no say in it, simply because you refuse to pledge allegiance to this party that you may not even like. How possible does this ring as fairness or as something American or this is if we're gonna, all right, if you want to do this, that's fine. Okay, you want to do it, pay for it. Pay for your primaries. Pay for all of those primaries that you want to do. You conduct the elections. You handle all the poll workers. You cover all the expenses. You do it all. If you want to close them, that's on you. You close them up, and that's your bill. And we over at all the other parties, the Democrats, the Independents, the whatever party, we're going to welcome everybody in. You can come in.
Yeah.
You can vote in this primary and select your people to go to office. Okay, you're going to do that.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Yeah.
If you want to close your primary, let's open up all the other primaries and let anybody who wants to vote in that.
Absolutely. But you're going to pick up the tab for doing that. It costs more money to close a primary. It costs
lot
extra
of money.
It does. So they're going to need to come up with the money to pay those extra expenses.
I mean, I don't understand. When you are the supermajority, you have gerrymandered every district so
Right.
that a Republican is going to win, but we need one more step. Right. We need to shut down the primary so no reasonable person who doesn't pledge allegiance to the golden calf of the Republican Party has no voice.
Do you think they might be getting a little bit nervous about this election?
Well, they should be. They should be. But I don't know that. I mean, right now, they're just Republicans fighting Republicans. They're not even worried about Democrats.
That's what this is. This is Republicans fighting Republicans on this. And listen, to your point about it being gerrymandered, Robert Adderholt's district touches Georgia and Mississippi. Okay, I mean it's you couldn't be. You know what I'm saying? They've carved this thing out where we go through the widest possible portions of the state just to make sure that he continues to get elected without living here. But it just is. It's ridiculous what is taking place here now. And then you don't have advantage enough because maybe in some places where they're highly educated folks in Madison and Auburn and Mountain Brook and other places around the state, you've had to, oh my God, listen to what the voters wanted to do, and they weren't as damn conservative as the rest of you crazy people are. And so now you've had to listen to some of these other voters and, oh my God, some Democrats crossed over and voted in our election. You mean people who live there? Is that what you're talking about? People who live in that district who's going to be represented by these people?
I was talking to a Republican candidate who was up in, one of the wealthier areas of our state, right? Where it's, there's a lot of wealthy, educated people. He said, I've never seen so many damn Doug Jones signs in my life. And he was talking to one woman and he said, she said, well, I don't know how I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote in the Republican Party primary because my husband and I always voted Republican. She said, but there ain't no way in the world I'm going to vote for Tommy Tuberville. She said, I don't care. We've been Republicans for 60 years, but we're not voting for him because he doesn't, live here, and he doesn't represent the best of this state. And so they said, that's why there's a Doug Jones sign in our yard.
I mean, I think that, I honestly do think that the Tuberville people need to roll around the state and take some temperatures because I think that there is a problem that they have. And I'm not so sure that it's a problem that's going to be simply covered up by that little box at the top of the ballot that says straight ticket Republican. I really do think that they believe that that stuff about the residency, we've all covered it and we all know what it is. We all know the fact. And everybody says it. You all know he doesn't live here. And that has just caught with people. And I think it's something that they truly believe. And some of the rhetoric and stuff that he's doing right now, I don't think is hitting home for him on the majority of Republican voters. I don't think it's hitting for him.
And look, they need to recalibrate. But anyway, we got to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your property is your home. Your investment and your legacy. Across the country, scammers are filing fraudulent deeds, often without the owner knowing until it's too late. REACT is a free alert system. If a document is filed using your name or tied to your property, you'll be notified within 24 hours.
Property fraud is a crime, and the faster we know it, the faster we can act.
Sign up today. Protect your property, protect your legacy.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Unless you've been living under a rock, I think everyone is aware that President Donald Trump was very dismissive of Pope Leo XIV. Now, this is the head of a church, the Catholic Church, which has over 1 billion members. In the United States, it's in the millions. And the Pope was talking about war and talking about peace and about how, God didn't bless wars. I go back to the fact someone asked Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War, they said, Mr. President, is God on our side? And Lincoln looked at the man and said, I pray that we're on God's side. Mm-hmm. But it's not the first time popes and presidents have heated up. But Trump took it to another level, and it has been condemned here in Alabama by the archbishops as the crossing a line, crossing a line that most people at least used to find intolerable.
It used to be that you didn't discuss your religion with people. You didn't discuss your politics with people. All of that's gone to the wayside. Anybody in polite society, that was the way it was. That's all gone by the wayside. Now to the point that you have, a political power criticizing a faith power. The Pope is not supposed to promote war. That's not what Jesus was about, right? He wasn't about war. He wasn't about bickering. He wasn't about name calling. He wasn't about, and that's all that Trump is about. But I'm telling you, taking the step right after that to put out an image of him as Jesus Christ is the most blasphemous thing I have ever seen.
That was a doctor, clearly. Okay, first of all, that was a doctor. He was doctoring that poor guy that looked like Jon Stewart.
What does that got to do with the presidency? Nothing.
What? Nothing. Doesn't have anything to do with the presidency. But and honestly, I gotta say, this is the red line for the popes and the people of faith. I would have thought it might have been paying off the porn star, or crazy, or making fun of the disabled reporter. I know, that's wild. That's wild. Or, how about stealing from the children's charity, the children's cancer charity? That might have had, I thought maybe some people of the church might have had a problem with that. Or, just any of the daily things that he does where he just lies like a rug in front of everybody. But this conflation of faith and politics, it's reached with Donald Trump. The one thing it has done has exposed the absurdity of it, of this seeking of morality within politicians when that was never their job. That was never their job. Their job is to go and represent you in places and this seeking of that morality and trying to force people to govern under religious rules and have this mindset that we're going to follow these principles rooted in religion somehow instead of the laws and the Constitution is where we're into this right now. And it's the reason why so many people believe the folks that follow this fool are in a cult, because they have bought into this nonsense of that they've leaned into, where the guy, he can't even recite a Bible verse, and now he's the holy guy that the people from the church are following. It's nonsense, and it's playing upon your religions because they're screwing you out of your money on the backside of this, and that's all that's been about.
Well, and I think that we try to now insert religion into every aspect of politics, and the separation of church and state in the First Amendment was to protect all faiths and to protect those who had no faith whatsoever. Mm-hmm. This was never meant to be a homogeneous type of nation in the sense that we all followed the same religious practice. I mean, one of my favorite Thomas Jefferson's quotes is, what difference does it make to me if my neighbor has 20 gods or no gods? It neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg. And the foundation of our Constitution is based on the fact that liberty and faith do not always go hand in hand. Because when you prescribe to one religion, then they determine what liberties are permissible and which liberties are impermissible. And this is where you get what Josh, you, Susan, and I see as the mingling of using faith as power and authority and confusing the two.
Yeah, and when you do that also, when you inject religion into these things, when you believe that your God is on your side in whatever it is you're doing, you can do no wrong. You can do no wrong in what's happening here. There's no room for compromise any longer. And that's a big part. A big part of our government is compromise, or two sides coming together from opposite ends of the spectrum and finding a middle ground somewhere. And you cannot do that if one side believes they've been sent by the Lord, even the Lord from Pulp Fiction. And so, I mean, that's just how it is. And I don't understand why we can't look around the world and see the conflicts that have been born out of religious fights that are killing and murdering millions and millions of people and babies and everybody else all the time, and not understand the perils that we face with this.
Well, and as someone said, asked a question the other day, said, well, can you explain this fight between Donald Trump and the Pope? And the answer was, you need to ask a psychiatrist, because that's
I believe that came from Nancy Pelosi, actually.
Where we are right now is we're having to psychoanalyze everything that comes out of the president's mouth and his administration.
That man should have been locked up years ago.
To a filter that is unparalleled in American history. But we got to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your property is your home, your investment, and your legacy. Across the country, scammers are filing fraudulent deeds, often without the owner knowing until it's too late. REACT is a free alert system. If a document is filed using your name or tied to your property, you'll be notified within 24 hours.
Property fraud is a crime, and the faster we know it, the faster we can act.
Sign up today. Protect your property, protect your legacy.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. You know, we're in deep into the primary season. We're less than around 30 days before the primaries, the Republican and Democratic primaries, and yet, to everyone's astonishment, who has been in politics for any length of time, Josh, people have not made up their minds. Now, my answer is they don't like what they're seeing, so they're not picking a candidate. And
I think they've made up their minds. Yeah, they don't like it.
Yeah, they don't like it. You're right.
Yeah, they don't like what they don't like. They've made up their minds. They don't like what they see. I mean, it's when you have your top races, and let's be honest, I think if there would be the same thing if there was a legitimate primary in the governor's race right now. If Will Ainsworth or Nathaniel Ledbetter were in there against Tommy Tuberville, we would also have probably a lot of undecideds in that race as well. But in the Senate race, which is a very important race, typically, U.S. Senate race, we don't have a favorite. AG's race, we don't have a favorite. Lieutenant Governor's race, we don't have a favorite. Ag Commissioner, we don't have a favorite. I mean, hell, the Ag Commissioner, nobody knows, 90% of the people didn't know anybody. So, I mean, it's just, but so it tells you, though, because, listen, these have been some of the most expensive races in this state's history. They have dumped millions and millions and millions of dollars into these primary races to get messages out to people. And those ads play constantly. Believe me, if you watch sports, and I watch a lot of it, my God, you get bombarded with the stupidity of some of these ads. But they're not hitting. Because I've noticed none of them talk about those things that we talked about a couple of weeks ago that came out in that poll. They don't talk about the affordability of things. They don't talk about the healthcare prices going up. They don't talk about how the rural healthcare is going away. They don't talk about all of these things that people in this state have said are their number 1 through 10 priorities. And instead, they talk about crap about a border and renaming the Gulf and, backing Donald Trump and being a true Trump American, whatever the hell that means. And, it's just insanity.
Well, and I was talking to some folks the other day. I was just waiting in the dentist office and talking to some folks, and I said, when you think about politics, what keeps you up at night? And every one of them said, I'm worried about paying my bills. I'm worried about my insurance has gone up on my home. I'm worried about, am I going to be able to continue to put my kid through college? I mean, these are normal Alabamians saying, and I said, how much time do you worry about transgender use? Or how much time are you worried about what we call the Gulf of Mexico? And not one of them seemed to give 2 flips.
No, they don't care about that. That doesn't affect them. First of all, there ain't anything we can do about it. As Alabamians, we need to monitor our own state. The old talking points finally aren't working anymore. People are tired of hearing it. People want to hear and this legislature, this last session, there was not one kitchen table bill among them. Nothing.
Oh, no, wait a minute. There were a lot of kitchen table bills. They just didn't see the light of day because the Democrats were the ones behind them, and they couldn't get them on the floor or in the committee or anywhere to be discussed. There were a ton of bills. There was a bill to help farmers get their products out to farmers markets and to local grocery stores. There were bills to help lower utility prices and to help with gas prices. The guy that's running for the nominee for governor, Doug Jones, wants to cut the gas tax, suspend it while we're going through this crisis in Iran. There are lots of bills out there and lots of ideas to help people reduce their prices and reduce their costs. It's just that you don't hear a lot about them because they're not from Republicans.
You just made my point. You absolutely just made my point. The Republicans were more worried about closing the damn primary than they were about these bills that actually help people. And I think the people are sick of it.
Well, and this is what happens when you
At least I am.
When you have one party rule. They always go down this road. They go too far, and they fight among themselves. There is no middle ground because the politics has been said a million times is the art of what is possible. And there are many things that are possible that we're not seeing happen. Government can relieve burdens off of ordinary citizens if they're willing to, but we're just not seeing a willingness. But I really need to, and again, I want to say, I don't care if you vote for a Republican or a Democrat or for whoever. Vote for a candidate who represents your best interest.
Yes.
The rest of these, I got to get to this. Mo Brooks has risen from the dead. You know, he abandoned Trump. He abandoned all his principles to follow Trump. Then now he's actually looks like he's leading in the polls in District 20 against a guy that's, you know, half his age or less than half his age and has accomplished a lot. While we just reported over at APR that Mo Brooks raised taxes more than 100 times when he was in the state legislature, Josh, and Lomax has at least worked to try to cut taxes, but that
by $1.5 million.
That district has been so gerrymandered that Momo may be back in Montgomery.
Yes, great. He's welcomed by everybody. Yeah, I thought he was going to spend time with his family, but I guess not. And so, listen, I don't know what we got to do to get rid of him. And at this point, he's really, honestly, the kind of the mascot for the Alabama Republican Party right now. Okay, he has done absolutely nothing for anybody. Really, he's done nothing for anybody but himself, and that's been his career. You look at him in his history in the U.S. House, and he was there 12 years or whatever it was, and didn't pass anything. Got a post office renamed. That's all he did. I mean, that is the legacy. It's all about Mo Brooks, and is welcomed in, wanted to be MAGA Mo, and welcomed in the endorsement, and now has written column after column about how he hates Donald Trump. And it's always about Mo Brooks, always.
Yeah.
Except for when he's voting to raise taxes, which he has done consistently throughout his entire career.
He has done that. Anyway, we'll see. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.